Hey, good morning, everyone. My name's Mike. I'm an accomplished meteorologist with over 20 years of experience with the National Weather Service, NOAA, and a few years with the Weather Channel. And if you joined me a couple days ago, we talked a little bit about sports and how the weather may impact those, the big sporting events this week. Today, we're going to handle things a little bit differently. We're going to start off with a little bit more of a traditional weather briefing, then transition to see what the weather might be with the Super Bowl and the PGA Tour starting today in Scottsdale. And so thanks again for joining me. Today's February 5th, 2026. This is Hail Mary Meteorology with Mike, or a lot of people call me Mush. Let's jump right to the satellite picture this morning. There's a couple main themes over the next couple days. There's a pretty strong Alberta clipper that's going to dig south here, and you can kind of see that here, digging south and east towards the northeastern quadrant of the country. That's going to produce not only some snowfall, but very, very cold temperatures. The icebox continues across a good portion of the eastern United States. There is this very weak system over the southeast this morning. This is producing some shower activity across the Florida Peninsula and a little bit of mixed precipitation across North Carolina. I'll show you some of the current watches and warnings in a minute. There's still a few winter weather advisories out for eastern North Carolina. Big long wave ridge that's been very persistent over the last 2 to 3 weeks across the west. You can see very, very little cloud cover, but this is going to change a little bit as this upper low and then the one behind it are going to slowly knock down upper level heights across the northwest. So we'll see precipitation arrive this weekend. And luckily, it looks like in San Francisco for the Super Bowl, it looks like the precipitation won't arrive on Sunday. So here's the radar imagery this morning. You can see light precipitation from Orlando, Tampa, the heavier stuff moving towards Lake Okeechobee. And then here's some of the light, very light mixed precipitation across the eastern North Carolina. This is all east of Raleigh at this point. So the current hazards, watches and warnings across the country. Let's start from eastern North Carolina. Winter weather advisories continue. Those will all eventually expire as we move throughout the day. Cold weather watches and warnings, extreme cold watch, across Pennsylvania, New York State, up into New England here. That's for over the weekend. There are some winter storm watches for the central Appalachians here, basically from West Virginia up towards the Laurel Highlands of Pennsylvania. Underneath the upper ridge, I talked about this a little bit on Tuesday. Underneath the upper level ridge, you don't have a whole lot of air motion. So we see air stagnation advisories and some fog advisories across the Central Valley of California up towards the Pacific Northwest and northern Intermountain West. And one last thing I wanted to point out here, these wind advisories. So with the big ridge out over the western U.S., we're going to have some offshore flow. So we've got some wind advisories up for Southern California. And don't be surprised over the next day or two, we see some record highs across the west and then spread into the northern plains. So the National Weather Service forecast for snow, this is over the next 3 days. You can see very, very light snow other than downwind of the Great Lakes. And despite Lake Erie being a little frozen over, it still looks like around Cleveland up towards Erie, we could see some maybe 4 to 5 inch amounts. And then as you move into the central Appalachians, you could see maybe up to 6 inches, maybe a little bit more than that. And then even areas like Pittsburgh, we're going to see maybe 2.5 inches. And as the system moves off the eastern seaboard, then don't be surprised to see a sneaky 1 to 2 inch amount of snow across or near Boston, and maybe even across Long Island. So that'll be interesting if that occurs. But overall, we're talking much lighter snow compared to the last 2 weekends here, where a large portion of the eastern U.S. Was just blanketed with ice, snow, and just a ton of precipitation. So the temperature anomalies over the next 3 days, these are high temperature anomalies. This is from Climate Central, and I just wanted to show how cold it remains across the eastern U.S., especially the Ohio Valley, Mid-Atlantic up into the northeast here. So the ice box is going to continue. And then you can see out west, spreading into the plains of central U.S., temperatures much above normal. And so that's what we're going to see over the next 3 days here. The hazards, so there's not a ton going on the next 1 to 3 days. I kind of brought most of it up over the last few minutes here. But the hazardous cold is going to be a big story the latter part of the weekend. And then with the clipper, usually clippers are moisture starved and they deliver frigid air and high winds. We're going to see those high winds around Philadelphia, down towards Baltimore, Washington, maybe even as far south as Richmond. And that'll be mainly on Saturday. And then finally, here's the heavier precipitation moving into the Pacific Northwest. We'll see rainfall across Seattle and Portland. And so the big thing I think is going to be the main theme is going to be the temperatures over the Sunday through next Thursday. Highs are going to remain below normal across the northeastern sector of the country. The ridge transitions from upstream over the west into the central portion of the U.S., where temperatures from the Gulf Coast all the way up towards the Dakotas will be 10 to 20 degrees above average. And with heights lowering across the west coast into the west, we're going to watch a upper low begin to dig towards the southwestern United States. Typically, with southwestern lows, there's going to be spread among the model guidance, and we're just going to have to see early to mid part of next week when that upper low kicks out into the southern tier of the country, what kind of precipitation we might see with that across the southern plains and lower Mississippi Valley. And that's the weather portion of the briefing. Let's go ahead and transition over to some of the major sporting events and how the weather may impact them. So we showed you this graphic on Tuesday. To me, these are the big sporting events of the week. Obviously, the Super Bowl in Santa Clara at Levi Stadium on Sunday. The PGA Tours in Scottsdale, Arizona at the TPC Scottsdale Stadium course. And then Live Golf started yesterday in Saudi Arabia. And so let's just go ahead and jump to the forecast for Sunday at the Super Bowl with New England taking on Seattle. Obviously, I showed you the other day. I picked Seattle. I'll show you how my thinking in the next day or two of why I'm picking Seattle. So the weather forecast, it's improved since yesterday. The precipitation potentials dropped from 23 to 13%. Rain, less than 10% chance. Winds overall going to be light. The high on a Sunday in Santa Clara is going to be about 66 degrees. The cloud covers dropped dramatically. It was like 70-some%, I think I showed 2 days ago. We're talking 29% now. And just prior to kickoff, it looks like it's going to be about 60 degrees. Temperatures might drop into the 50s. But overall, it looks like the weather's going to be perfect for the Super Bowl here. And so let's go ahead and jump to the PGA Tour. And it's going to be stellar across Phoenix and the Scottsdale area. Could be a little bit more cloud cover today. It's going to be partly to mostly cloudy, but temperatures are going to be in the upper 70s, flirting with 80. I don't know if you saw it on social media yesterday, but they had the Pro-Am yesterday. And how about at the stadium hole at 16 there, Travis Kelce hitting the tee shot, I think within 5 to 10 feet. Pretty impressive, but it's going to be an exciting start. This isn't a signature event, but it should be really entertaining for the fans. And you can watch the coverage on CBS this weekend. Finally, Live Golf. They're playing at night in Saudi Arabia, and I talked about on Tuesday. I think the highs were in the 70s there in Riyadh. Temperatures overnight, I thought they were going to be around 60, 65. If you watched any of the coverage yesterday, winds were light. There were no gusts, the 10 miles per hour that I was thinking a few days ago. Leaderboard was fantastic. Thomas Dietrich and Peter Uihlein were at -7. A stroke behind was Elvis Smiley from Australia, great young talented player. And we'll see how it plays out. The reason they're playing overnight is so you can see the coverage here across the eastern United States during the morning, early afternoon hours. And it's amazing. They have these huge spotlights and lighting poles and that down on the course. And so it's really cool atmosphere across Saudi Arabia. So the main theme here about these three sporting events, the Super Bowl looks a lot better. Very little chance of rain. Temperature's comfortable. It should be just a great Super Bowl. And so thanks for joining me today. We'll see you tomorrow.